Okay, so our topic for this first meeting of 2026 is unlocking agentic AI adoption without sacrificing control. And I'm happy to introduce Oren Michels and an abbreviated bio of Oren's. He does have his full bio in our meeting invite. Oren is an entrepreneur, investor, board member, and advisor to technology startups in the US and Europe. He's co founder and CEO of Barndoor.ai. He co founded Mashery in 2006 and served as CEO until Intel acquired the company in 2013. Oren is also a Tony nominated Broadway and off Broadway producer whose credits include Romeo and Juliet and Good Night and Good Luck, starring George Clooney. His angel investments include Uber, Pebble Post, and Eero. Among many other accomplishments, Oren holds degrees from both MIT and UCLA. Oren, thank you so much for joining us today and looking forward to your presentation. I'll pass it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. It's lovely to be here. And the Broadway thing is actually kind of what got me introduced to you because my good friend Dmitry Koltunov, who's also involved in theater, told me about this organization and encouraged me to reach out, which I did. So it's theater always is useful. So it sounds like from the intro that there's some knowledge of MCP, and we'll talk a little bit about that today and what's happening there. But this topic today is very timely. In yesterday's Washington Post, we had this article. So the entire world is now talking about guardrails for action-taking AI. And this was an op-ed by a Salesforce.com engineer, actually, that they published. And the topic of this article was interesting. He was talking more about consumer AI and consumer agents taking actions, for instance, booking hotel rooms or flights. And I think those were some of the examples he used. But from what we're seeing, that's interesting, but you're already having a much bigger problem in a lot of companies where through the use of MCP, agents are already taking actions and doing so without governance, or people are so concerned about what might happen if the agents did that, that they're not using them to their fullest and best use. So we'll talk about a little bit of how we can sort of allow this to occur more effectively. So very briefly, we'll talk a little bit about what an AI agent is. I have a strong opinion on that. In my view of the world, AI agents take actions. Chat windows suggest things for humans to do. They may bring in information, but ultimately they say, gosh, you want to make a presentation like this? You should have a slide that does this. You should have this narrative. You should do this. And it's all the things that the humans should do. Agents should do them automatically on behalf of a human, or in some cases, they do them autonomously, where there's not necessarily a specific human involved. We've had chatbots for a while. Some of them were called AI, some of them were not. 2010, they were probably less, certainly like the AI chatbots we have now. Natural language processing sort of came into it, and then the sort of conversational AI popped out with the release of ChatGPT and other similar sorts of AIs. And now we're in a world of task-driven AI agents that are actually taking actions on behalf of humans. So how does that work? Well, if you're not taking actions, if you're not connected to things, it's very hard for AIs to take actions. If we as humans, we go to work, we sit down, and we don't just start chatting with a PhD. We do our job by accessing different technologies and different tools and take actions with those tools. So if we want AI to be able to effectively take actions in the manner that humans do, we need this capability of connecting the AI to these tools. And as it sounds like everybody here has heard of, there is this lovely thing called MCP that makes that happen. And MCP is it's I look at it sort of as a layer generally between APIs that exist, that have existed for some time, and as Mike mentioned, I'm a veteran of the API management world and sort of created the first company that was offering API management as a service. But it takes that a sort of a step level, a step further, and allows non-deterministic tools like chatbots, like AIs and LLMs, to be able to understand what it is they can do with these tools and figure out how to use them. Um, so you have now this protocol, this protocol technology of model context protocol. It makes connecting AI possible, but the challenge is that for the most part, most of these MCPs access the underlying tools through APIs that exist and through the API authorizations that exist. So that if I, as a user of, let's say, Salesforce, I have certain levels of action that I can do within Salesforce. Um, if I log in using OAuth and an agent, and that agent has MCP access to the Salesforce, it will inherit my authorizations. And so the, the challenge with that is that I, as a human, come with certain governance of my own. I have context. I have fear of being fired. I have fear of screwing things up and having to fix it. And the AI agents don't have this. They don't have the context. They're not afraid of being fired. And so the concept that Oren's allowed to delete an opportunity in Salesforce, but Oren knows that's kind of stupid. Oren's agent shouldn't be allowed to do things that it doesn't need to do. And because these LLMs and these agents are so powerful and they're not deterministic, they're not programmed, it's very difficult to predict often what they're going to do. And so what you want to do is make sure that the agents are operating with the guardrails that they need to do the task at hand and only the task at hand. And if you can do that, then you're able to go, instead of having these AIs and these MCPs being a potential liability where they do all these horribles that we're all worried about, um, you can safely and secure MCP with governance and visibility tailored to each tool, to each context, and only allow the agents to do what they should be doing. So how does that look? Well, it's a new layer of policy and management that sits between the AI apps and the various agent development platforms and these underlying tools and APIs. So for instance, going back to my Salesforce example, I may be able to do certain things, but because you have this additional layer of policy there, it brings in the context of what's happening. So it says, okay, well, Oren's allowed to do these things, and he's using this particular agent, and that's okay. He's trying to do this particular task. Well, Oren can do that task, but there's something that says Oren can't do that task. Or perhaps Oren can't do that task in these contexts, but he can do it in those contexts. And so there's a means of creating a very fine-grained access control, and then, of course, visibility and audit. So when you have this in place, what you're able to do is you're able to say and look at an agent and say, okay, agent, go do these certain things. And the agent's going to go try to do those things. And it may succeed, or if it's not able to, it may not succeed. But within the visibility and the audit trail that you have, you're able to see what the agent is doing and how it's attempting to conduct that job. And so if you say, agent, go do these things, and you look at the audits and you say, okay, what it's doing is consistent with what it should be doing if it's trying to do that job, well, you can then start opening that up and allowing those agents to actually take those tasks. And so the idea is to enforce these policies before anything happens. And if you do this, what you're going to wind up finding is that just as we do with humans, we have purpose-built agents. We hire the right agent for the right job, just as we do with humans. So you are going to have lots and lots of different kinds of agents, different platforms. There is no single platform that's going to sort of win and rule them all at this point, and nor should there be. One of the nice things about agents is that you're using this agent and a new one comes along. You don't really feel bad firing the old one and hiring a new one because you don't know their kids, and it's not really a human thing. And you're able to really test lots and lots of different kinds of agents, look at different ways of solving the same problem, and see which ones can be trusted to do that. So this is a sort of together is the key toward managing that level of authorization and that level of management. But there's one more twist to this that if you guys have been playing with MCP, you've probably run into. And that's the issue of the context and the context window. So what happens with MCP is you have all these tools available. If you open up one MCP, that MCP may come with dozens or even hundreds of potential tools. You open a second MCP server. Let's say you're now running, you were working in Salesforce, now you're working in Google Docs, and now you're working in Oracle. Each one of these come with so many tools, these LLMs start getting confused, and a couple things happen. First thing that happens is that when you ask it to do something that requires MCP, the first thing the model does is look at all the MCP tools available to it, downloads them all, downloads all the information about them, and before it even starts working, it's burned through a bunch of tokens, and often the context window is exhausted at that point before it's even done the job. But even if it can do the job because you have enough context window, with all of those tools available, it's very difficult for the model to know which tool to use. So it'll often try using the wrong tool. Even if you tell it what to do, I'll say, go look at Salesforce and give me information on this opportunity. And it will say, well, I'm going to go look at Google Docs and see if I can find it. Because it's sort of like if you're about to do a job and you go to your little toolbox and you have your special toolkit that you know really well, that's great. You know where your screwdriver is and you can handle it. The more of these you get, it's like walking into a Home Depot and not even knowing where the tool department is. You're sort of wandering around trying to find something that'll get your job done, and you grab whatever's next to it, whatever's closest. And so what you need to have for this as part of your MCP management is some form of a tool router. And that basically the tool router is context based, and it understands, it works with the model, it understands the context of what's happening. So rather than giving it access to every tool under the sun that's available, it gives it access to a half dozen of the most likely tools that it will need to go do that. And in so doing, it significantly reduces your costs and your tokens that you're using. It improves speed, but it also improves reliability. It's like having someone sitting next to you saying, okay, I see you're working on that thing. Here's the right size screwdriver to go do that. So in short, what we find is that the management and the control and the correct routing, it gives you the freedom to actually succeed with AI. And it allows you to trust that what's going on in your company is what should be. It gives you full visibility of everything that is happening with MCP in your company, and that you're able to then start deploying a lot of really, really useful tools, particularly the tools that allow agents to write and take action. And it's those tools where the real value is coming. I'll close by mentioning that we have done a sort of a comprehensive ebook on AI and MCP security. If you're interested in it, you can download it on our site or drop me an email, and I'm happy to send it to you. And with that, I would love to move to questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Oren. That was very